anybody coming from Boulder might be late.
Might be
Well, I
Essie's
just came
coming.
from
What
there.
now?
It wasn't too bad.
They're working by Foothills Parkway, and that's a
What's that?
bind. Hmm? It's
They
where they
finished
had done the entrance, redid the entrance and exits on, from Foothills to 36 about a year or so. Apparently, some of that concrete has to be redone.
And it cracked me up. I'm like, wow, we just opened this and now you're closing it.
I almost
So
cried.
It's
And
not
it's even
the-
worse because you don't
I
expect
was
it,
like,
you know.
yeah,
You
it's-
expect it
yes,
just-
I can.
No,
I don't blame you.
no. So, but it's not the 36, it's not the 36 construction, it was Boulder's Foothills Parkway.
Well,
It's-
what's been the last week has been
Insane.
up over the bridge over Boulder Creek. That's where it's
Oh,
been.
I haven't seen that.
They said in the paper there were some fault, I don't know whether they're faulty or, I don't know, but
Faulty concrete there too.
the supports underneath that bridge.
Ooh, that's a bad thing.
That's nice.
It's not all the way back, it's not where, it's before it veers off there.
Well, they said something about concrete in the paper.
It's not as, I mean, it is miserable just because it's deceptive, but it wasn't that bad. I just came through there.
Well, the
It
first
didn't take
day-
me near as long as I thought
The
it would.
first day or two, they didn't have it marked. I mean, they didn't
Yeah.
have any of the signs and cones, it just stopped, and I bet you they had some accidents. 'Cause that area, that stretch has a lot of.
So is Essie
Yeah,
gonna do
it
now?
does.
Essie is supposed to come here, but he's coming from Boulder.
Okay.
So we can go ahead and get started. I know, Michelle, you mentioned that you've got to leave at right
Yeah.
around 6:15.
Yeah.
So we probably have a good 45 minutes of topic stuff here to get through. So we can go ahead and get started, catch up. I haven't heard from Lisa.
You don't think I'm sympathetic?
I sent Lisa a couple of
I can watch
emails.
the jazz concert at the high school with me?
She'd be coming from Boulder,
Would
too.
be good.
It actually will be really good. I'm excited.
Lisa usually comes. Well, you never know where Lisa's
Yeah,
coming from.
trouble finding parking.
Sometimes she's
Is
working
that
from
Where
home.
you have trouble finding parking if you get really.
Yeah. It doesn't start till 7, but I have to go home and pick up the kid.
Went to middle school, the Eastern middle schools had a concert at and they did it at Centaurus.
Okay.
And parking was a pretty good challenge.
Was it really?
Actually, it turned out not to be. Getting into Centaurus was a challenge.
Oh, that is
You had,
crazy.
Yeah.
you had to
Yeah.
know where, we were coming from the east, and you have to turn
Oh,
in
shoot.
before
Yeah, you have to
Centaurus.
turn at the
I didn't know
before,
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
went
it's
down
go
be-
through Centaur Village.
Yeah. So I went past it and made a U-turn probably where I shouldn't have.
We'll edit that part out of the broadcast.
Otherwise, I was gonna be
I
home.
see, I brought the Xerox.
Do you like coming to concerts like that and stuff like that?
Well, I have
Oh, the handout? Oh, yeah, that's great.
grandsons.
Yeah.
And they did a great job. I mean,
Yeah, it's
I have a
amazing.
grandson that's a fifth grader, so he's.
Oh, so it wasn't, it was one of those big combo ones?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, those are intense, but they're awesome. I
And-
love that
and
they
the-
get them all
And all
together.
the younger classes had some singing. Actually, the whole Columbine, all of the elementary schools were there,
Mhm.
from East County.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was-
Yeah, no, that is crazy. You see, this is just the high school jazz bands, so that's easy peasy for
And luckily, we didn't have, we went first, so we didn't have to stick around for the middle school part. Which was good for the auditorium, because,
Who's competing?
no, it was just a concert, it wasn't a competition, but they had all the
What was your
elementary.
connection?
They get all the fifth graders together, like in clusters around the county, and have them play together. It's pretty cool.
It was
I guess I
very cool.
did those.
And that, it was, you know, the instructor.
My fifth grader was just in one of those, and he hasn't worn a shirt with a collar since he was probably in second grade, and shoes that weren't sneakers. He doesn't ever remember not wearing sneakers, so the toughest part for him wasn't playing viola, it was just wearing the clothes.
Nice people.
And my daughter teaches at Columbine. She's
Alright.
bilingual education, second grade teacher.
I thought they said I thought you said, I thought she was
Oh,
at
Betsy.
Pioneer.
I'm sorry, yeah, not Columbine, Pioneer. What did I say,
Oh, yeah, you did say Coleman.
Yeah, I meant Pioneer. She's at Pioneer, which is
Because
bilingual.
Columbine also is a big
Yeah,
Spanish.
but she lives in Lafayette, so Pioneer is a much better choice
Right.
for her. She did teach at Columbine at one time, and it was kind of a, those were the bad times when Columbine was under everybody's.
My daughter, her students.
Okay, so should we just go ahead and get started then, do you think?
Sure, yeah, if Essie is able to come, or Lisa is able to attend, we can catch up. We can start with our update items and get through those, and then try to get to the main items, getting ready for the dinner session, and then beginning to think about budget submittal. We've started our, as you know, we start the budget season, right around June 2nd or 3rd for the subsequent year. So we're in the middle of it now, so we wanted to make sure that staff makes sure that we get in front of each of the committees to think about any recommendations. So similar to last year in kind of that May-June timeframe, ideas that the committee might have to recommend for the process over the summer before the board considers the final budget.
Just FYI, I cannot hear you.
Can't hear me?
I am deaf today.
That's okay. I can talk louder. I can talk into the microphone. But you didn't miss anything, Michelle. We're just talking a little bit about budget timeline. Talk about it this month. Try to finalize something, maybe any new items that the committee is interested in recommending for next year. Very similar to last year and the previous years.
Cool.
So I can start with if there's no other comments or any additional agenda items, I can just get started on the updates.
Sounds good.
Okay. So Household Hazardous Waste and Hard to Recycle Collection event, if you'll remember, there was a little bit of weather that day. It ended up not happening, and Arbor Day got pushed out to the following week. The folks at Boulder County and with EcoCycle weren't able to get a rescheduled date that worked for everybody over the next couple of months. So if you saw your e-blast or you saw the note in the newsletter, we sent out a coupon, a digital coupon through the town's electronic media to take materials to the facility and get the 50% off for anybody who actually goes there, which we'll be able to run for several months.
That's good to know. But you're saying that was in a separate email?
Yeah, we sent it out in an e-blast, and it's been out in a couple of times.
So maybe I just blew over it, but I didn't see that there was a coupon for a discount.
I got one.
But I probably
Yeah.
just blew over it. You
Just
know
didn't
what I
see
mean?
it? Yeah, we're going to keep sending it out because we have the budget allocation for this amount.
Well, that's nice.
Just
So we just need to figure out how to promo that.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
just going to keep promoting it over the next however many months it takes us to get to approximately $2,500, which is
Okay.
typically what we spend in that. Arbor Day ended up happening the following week, and again, not great weather that day, but it turned out fine. The document shredding and electronics event was also in April. And again, partnering with Guardian, that was a little shorter this time than it was when they last hosted it, I think last fall. It was great to have them available again. And then the advisory committee all the advisory committees had an open house in this room on the 28th, so a couple of weeks ago. And there were a few people who came to the open house, and one application for RCAC was submitted.
Oh my God, yay.
Yes, so it's an individual who will be on the agenda for the board to interview on the next meeting, so that's May 23rd. So I mentioned that because on May 23rd, this group also has the dinner with the board, the joint work session to go over items that we'll talk about and try to identify during this get-together. But Colleen Callan will be interviewed after the dinner and before the start of the meeting. We'll have 4 interviews that night.
Maybe even appointed that.
Maybe even appointed, yes.
Colleen Callan,
Yes,
C-A-L-L-I-N.
I-N.
Well, that's really exciting because I felt so bad that I couldn't come that night. But it's like I was trying, and I'm like, something had to give. That was what gave.
Is she running for trustee?
I don't know. No. Oh, really? Yeah, there haven't been any candidacy paperwork filed that I'm aware of.
It's too early for that.
Yeah, it's still a couple months away.
See, on the document shredding, do they give us stats of like how much comes through?
And
Okay.
I have it in an email, but
It's tricky because they don't ask for ID, so it could be kind of any of their customers, but.
they had a management change at the facility, so the new person
did?
who's there,
Anna's not there anymore?
Anna's not there. She went to another one of their firms.
Oh, no.
Oh, Essie just sent me an email. He's running about 10 minutes late. But yes, the amount of material that's collected by DataSafe, they forwarded to me, and I think I have it in an email, but I can't compare it from last year on a per capita basis.
Yeah, because it's not the same amount of time.
Different amount of time, yes. But it was good. It was a good amount, like it is every year.
That's awesome.
It's always in the many hundreds of pounds, and then thousands of pounds of paper.
I think the key is people are taking advantage of it, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it wasn't scheduled, or wasn't at the same time it was last year, we got calls, so people kind of plan around it and plan to have it happen.
Cool.
Next on the list, Xeriscaping Workshop. Last Monday? I think it was
Yep.
last Monday. We had a Xeriscape 101 workshop in this room with almost 50 people attending. It was fantastic. So this
Awesome.
isn't...
It was a great turnout, it wasn't 50.
43, 44. Yeah, I counted them.
Yeah, again, something else I had to give. I was planning on
Right.
coming.
I thought it was- But anyway, it was fabulous turnout, and it was great.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. And then Curtis, Curtis Manning was the landscape designer who hosted it and led it. He asked where everybody lived, and I think it was all but two were members of the Rock Creek HOA, and the two non-Rock Creek HOA members, I wasn't familiar with them. So it was a great turnout. So this is an item that has been on a budget recommendation, and it's been on the work plan for at least a year or two to try and coordinate some enhanced education just about xeric planting and alternative modes of landscaping, just alternative ways of landscaping. So it was great to be able to host a workshop like that. And it got really favorable response. It was great. I appreciate Jim Payne from the Rock Creek HOA taking the time to help put together a flyer that he presented copies and left copies with you, describing what the HOA's process is for coordinating an application to make a landscaping change to an individual's home or property that's in the Rock Creek HOA. So I have to ask, any new applications?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're coming in all the time. So the trick is, I may try to match it up with the.
Maybe
get the
maybe a
list or
spike
something
associated
and like
with
the
this, or
last-
ask if people attend.
There's so many coming in right now seasonally that I can't tell, and if they're doing it the right way, they wouldn't be this quickly. But I'd say about half were knowledgeable, some very knowledgeable about it, and the other half were just trying to, learn about it.
Which is great. Just that was
Yeah.
really kind of the point of the workshop. Just the big picture principles of what xeriscaping is, to introduce folks, to let them know basically what
Right.
xeric landscaping is, and then also for the folks that are a little maybe further along the continuum of trying to make a change like that, how to do it.
Right. But anyway, it was very positive, and I hope we continue and do it again, because you could certainly get there's a lot of interest. You can get more attendance at other future events. So I haven't seen the survey, the evaluation. Here he is. That
Hey, Yazzie.
staff sends out.
It's okay.
I don't know if they've gotten that back yet, but
I haven't looked. I haven't had a
It'd
chance
be
to
good
get a
to-
Victoria.
the committee might be interested in seeing the response. So, anyway,
Yeah, that's a good
I'm glad,
recommendation.
appreciate the committee putting it on the work plan, and I think it was a great event. Turns out that Curtis, the guy who did who's associated with, he does this through the county, through the
Conservation Resource Center.
Conservation Resource Center for others. But he actually is working with, what's it called? Blue Heron. It's the HOA that's across from the Y, just on the
Blue Heron
north-
Estates.
Yeah. And which is a Haven, our same management company as Rock Creek, actually. So we're going to work with them a little bit to get compare some notes and so forth, try to refine some guidelines. So anyway, it was a big success.
Yeah, it was great. I don't think anybody who's here tonight was able to attend, but Jim was able to attend. It was a great turnout.
Totally off topic, but it's interesting that you stopped there.
It is?
Yeah. Are we going to send out, or is somebody going to send out like a specific targeted email tomorrow with the options to discard it unwanted bulk items? It'd be great if we could do that to the town mailing list and the CAC.
Is there something specific to tomorrow?
Well, because it's the community garage sale this weekend.
Oh, okay.
So that would be great to remind people, because it's tomorrow and Saturday. And obviously, people used to just leave everything on the curb because the pickup used to occur after that. So that would be great if we could send out a...
Sure.
I'm sorry, I know that's like a last minute thing, but that'd be great. Just to remind people of their options, please.
might be able to alert Karen and she can hand that out, have that information.
Oh, the
Yeah,
bags
it's
that
probably
she
too
hands
late,
out?
though. I think she already stuffed all her bags. But she might have another email list or something that she can send to everybody. Didn't even think of that. Maybe we'll have to make a mental note.
That's a good
That
idea.
the town can put something in her bag next year about what to do with your things. Oh, that's actually not a bad idea, huh?
She typically includes a list of charity organizations who will do pickup. That make themselves available around town, but for items that can't be used and nobody wants via the garage sale, that is a good idea to include the discard options.
Okay.
Committee reappointment schedule is the next item. So those were that was the events recap. Every spring we seem to have a lot of events that just gets busy in spring, like everywhere. So those were the event items that we had scheduled over the last several weeks, quick updates. And then the committee reappointment schedule, a third of each committee, each of the 9 members, so three positions are up each year on a rotating cycle. And this year, there are 2 vacancies that are on the 2017 cycle, and then also, Michelle, your position is up for reappointment this year. So the town board appoints citizens to serve on these boards on a July through June cycle. So next month, the second meeting of June, we're planning to have an item for the town board to consider appointing and reappointing committee members.
When I can't, because I've already done 2 now. Yeah? So I'm out.
Well, let me take a quick look. Has it really been 2 terms?
I've been doing this for a while. I was appointed in 2012, I think. But I took over somebody's.
Yeah, so if you take over somebody's, partial terms don't count. So we've got PC and Michelle. So you were initially appointed in June of 2012.
1 year.
My eyes are horrible. I cannot even read that.
So you're not done quite yet, Michelle.
Dang. No, I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing. So I'm up, and who else is up? Nobody?
Nobody. Alexandra and Corinne's positions are currently vacant, but they would have been up.
Okay. So I guess now we move on to the banner and giveaway items.
I was hoping to have the giveaway items. So the folks that were here last month, thanks for offering your opinion and input on choosing a bag. The bags were ordered, but they, of course, were going to get here the day after today's meeting.
Right.
So we'll have them next week. We'll have them available for
And
4th
then
of July and also for the Chili Fest events for any committee members who are able to attend and
Awesome.
hand them out.
And I noticed that, contrary to what you thought, that they could actually print on the outside. Your email said that there
Mhm.
was an outside logo, so that was
Mhm.
awesome.
Yeah, we
Did
looked to
you
get
catch
two,
that?
worked to get 2 colors, which was great.
Okay, cool. I think then we'll just have to decide in terms of how we give them out. No, it wasn't you. It was, what's her name, had that idea of like doing like a little game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Have not an inducement, but a reason to engage folks
Mhm.
at a booth. So a game, or hitting a tennis ball in a bucket, or throwing rings on a 7-Up bottle, something
Yeah.
to bring people in, and then have a reward. And the reward could be something like a bag or something else.
Because Aaliyah, she was like, oh, see how quick they can sort the recycling or something silly.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah,
hey.
pick out the compost item. The first, you have 3 people line up, and then whoever gets the compost item, all the compostable items in the right container, they get a bag.
Ah, we'll figure out something. Sounds good.
That's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Like 6 items.
Mm-hmm.
Guess which would go with a styrofoam make card.
It does make it tough. So plan on 4th of July for Chili Fest, if you haven't thought about what your plans are for those weekends. Newsletter items. Every month we have as a work plan item to make sure that the town is able to pass through and advertise sustainable related programs and other outreach items. So the bulk item pickup options list that Michelle noted earlier is in here. vacancies. The community garage sale is scheduled this coming tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow and Saturday. And then Energy Smart folks, the folks from the County Commissioner's Office and Leah Yancey are so great about forwarding their seasonal energy saving tips, which were great. And 4th of July parade coming up. It's on 4th of July. Bird Walk is coming up.
Are we advertising anything about Bike to Work Day?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one of our annual event
Hey, I
items.
went and did that last week.
The mow down pollution?
Yeah.
So I didn't talk about this last month. I got an
know.
email a day or two after the meeting about a great program to help induce people to get rid of their gas mowers and trade them in and get, for a lower cost, exchange it and get a mower at 3 different spots. It's a great program, but you do have to pre-register, so we're trying to get the word out.
You do, and there's another one in June if anybody was interested in participating with it. And the interesting thing is we went for the 40-volt battery one, and if you got that, then they had these tools that you could get that used the same batteries. And they were like crazy cheap because you weren't buying them with a battery. I had no idea that was just the luck of the draw. So it's like I got like 3 other tools for less than $100 in addition to the mower. Yeah.
It's a legitimate savings. It's worth it. So if you have a gas mower that's on its end of its life cycle, or if you have one that you're interested in trading in to a neighbor, this is a great way
Yeah,
to
I'm excited.
to go to the trouble to get a new mower.
And it works pretty good. I have nothing against my gas mower. I just could never start it anymore. So my husband's never in town, so I can't count on him to do it.
And then-
Try not to cut, using a battery, no cord.
Yeah, no cord.
Cords have a problem
Yeah,
with
that,
cutting machines.
that would not work for me.
They have a way of getting in the way.
And Kimberly mentioned Bike to Work Day, and this is our traditional partnership with the folks along the corridor and Dr. Cog that help promote that, which has been great. And then last month, Leah Yancey was here, and she forwarded some great information about the solar, electric, and bike cooperative purchasing agreement that the county put together for those items. It was great to have her here, and we had the information in again this month. And one goes through June. Yeah, electric. So the electric bikes go through June, so we'll be able to have this in one more month. And then Call and Ride's coming back. I can't remember if we brought that up here. The Call and Ride service that used to be in Superior, if you've lived here for more than, 3 years? It was 4 summers ago now that service was ended, is coming back around August. It says on here, yeah, August 1st. So if you have, it will have a new transit option available that
That's
was
good.
eliminated as part of a budget cut by RTD a few years ago.
Ridiculous jerks.
So those are the newsletter items. Next on the list, preparation for the May 23rd dinner session with the town board. So a lot like, if you remember from years past, getting together with the town board members just gives us an opportunity for the town board members to interact a little bit with individual committee members and talk about things that are on the work plan, sync up a little bit on priorities. It's always been a good session. So the items that, I stopped to look at what was on the agenda for last year. We picked a few of the work plan items. Last year it was diversion goals, hi Lisa. It's okay. The input on so we talked a lot last year, I think, on the waste services contract, which was
Yeah, we
great.
did.
And then coordinating with the Rock Creek HOA on publicizing for some of the different waste services, specifically the compostable pickup. Talked a little bit about PACE, and then the dog park compost program. So those were kind of the items, the discussion items that this group had identified for going over with the board during the dinner last year.
So what we need to do is decide
Pick a few,
what to do
pick a
this
few
year.
things.
I would
So-
still like to hit diversion goals because they won't make any goals, and so therefore nothing's going to change without them making a goal, in my opinion. So I'd like to still hit on that, but I'm open to obviously other things too. That shouldn't take the whole time.
When is it again?
23rd.
23rd, a week from this coming Monday, 6 o'clock, this room. It should be on your calendar.
Well,
I sent you a
there
calendar.
is. The reason I was asking because there should be goal levels being considered by the state for our class of community by
Ooh.
that time.
Oh, interesting.
So we could be talking about that
Yeah,
before it's
well,
actually released.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah. That's good.
So we could have a little thing that would be why we're raising it.
Yeah.
What would be a good way to phrase that, Lisa? Statewide?
Consideration of our current level versus the statewide, the state,
Levels of what?
diversion goal.
Just diversion goals, okay?
Okay. So yeah, we'll just be able to highlight again how far behind we are, because even the states now come up with something. What else would people have ideas?
I'd love to see us talk about the building codes, if you didn't already say that.
Yeah,
before I
that's
got
a
here,
good
so-
one. The commercial building. Okay, cool. I think that's great.
There seems to, my sense I picked up was, seems to be still not a complete understanding of what PACE is all about. At least in one particular meeting when our budget came up, there was, like, what's this PACE? We didn't adopt that kind of thing.
What is PACE, are you asking, or what have we hooked into PACE?
What is it and what have we looked into it?
So
We
what
might
it,
just remind her of all of that,
Okay.
okay.
because it's free.
So yeah, give them a better
So, and it's-
definition of what PACE is and what they can do for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just, because it's on our work plan and it'll probably be in the budget again
Okay.
and work plan.
So do we have some, I assume you have those up there to figure out if we have accomplished anything from the first quarter in time to report back on our meeting, right?
Well, either that or, I think last year what the committee was interested in was picking a few of the big picture topics that made sense to go over with the board to maybe ensure clear direction or expectations for next steps.
So do we have the reported data from the haulers?
I have the holiday, yeah.
Did you distribute that, and what was the percentage for townwide?
I didn't distribute it. It's consistent with years past. The recycling versus trash is in the mid-20s for both the, for the HOA and for the town's collection customers.
We did research a garden in a box program, and we weren't in time or something like that?
Correct.
Is that right? Okay.
But just a quick note, so that I reached out, but then I guess somebody from the town's office reached out too. And so I don't know.
To whom?
To the Garden in the Box to get on to become a member for next year. And so I felt, I just was confused as to who is doing it. And then, we don't want them to have two people in two different contacts, and we want to be streamlined. And
I'll
that
take
makes
2
it
over
easy.
0. I mean, if someone leaves or someone's not available, I'll take 2 over 0.
Yeah, I just didn't
Some of
know
that,
how
I
that
think, some of that was
works.
based on me wanting to try and schedule a time with the Zurich workshop and making sure that we could participate with CRC, and you hadn't been here. So
Yeah.
in order to concentrate some of the communication, I just stepped in to try and shorten that a little bit.
Okay.
Didn't try to co-opt anything, just I needed to get something scheduled. We wanted to try and schedule a Zurich workshop, so
Okay.
I was trying to cover all of our bases, and then Tori, who was here with us last month, was great in trying to follow up and making sure that we
So
could
it was
find
kind
a
of
date.
2 different things, but they took it as one.
Mhm. And we actually have a few different programs that we participate through CRC, and they, like a lot of organizations, unless you're the person who is on that name, who they typically deal with, they won't deal with anybody else. So I had a little bit of that with a couple of different projects.
Okay.
And it's
Okay.
normal. That's
Okay.
normal. But I appreciate you following up.
Yeah. And I was just, I just didn't want them to feel like we were unorganized.
Yeah, we figured it out, and Tori actually set up a meeting with somebody who coordinates a lot of the programming for CRC to make sure that we'll be synced up for next year, which is great.
And what does that cost the town to become a member to offer our residents the discount?
For, which depends on
For
which
the
program
garden
it
in
is.
the box
We haven't
one.
agreed on a budget.
Yeah, and we can set up I assume it's $25 or whatever per the limit we tell we sat.
Mhm.
Yeah, or how
There's-
much we can
there's,
offer for discount.
You know, like Lisa mentions, there's a set pattern, a relationship that CRC has with different municipal jurisdictions in the county. And I would assume it will fall in line with that.
Right. So I think, so we could say on that one, we've got it set up for next year, right? Or we're setting it up for next year, right? I think it'd be great if we came with at least the first quarter stuff with some bullet about what we've done on it or what we haven't done on it. And so then we can direct the conversation, we can hand that out, but we can direct the conversation to the topics that we think are most important and say, oh, these are the ones we've got the progress to you. So maybe we can talk about how we can address any or which of these we can address or don't want to address or whatever for next time. So-
Sure, I guess that's a little bit of a different way of approaching what we've done in the past. So the last couple of years, we had 4 or 5 topics out of the work plan that made sense to maybe focus on more in depth. And you're thinking maybe have a quick assessment of each of the items.
Just so that we can dismiss the ones we don't care about. I mean, that we don't want to talk about, and have it be that we didn't ignore it. But we're providing them the report back that what we did or didn't do on it.
Mhm.
I don't know, I'm just brainstorming here, spitballing, whatever the right word is.
Sure. Lots of different ways to do it.
But it also, okay, I don't have to talk, sorry. But there are a couple of these that I am kind of interested in what we should or could do on them. So on the C&D one, I have no idea that there's anything constructive we can do until or unless Boulder or Boulder County does invest in the C&D facility or space they're talking about, right? So I don't know what else we can do until then. The only thing, I mean, the most attractive thing to me would be as if we could put in, my best suggestion would be that we put in an ordinance saying that people have to have, if you get one trash dumpster at a C&D site, you have to have a trash and a recycling one. And that we require all cardboard and all metals and something else, whatever else is the highest value stuff, go into that dumpster, because that stuff has a market and is easily separated from each other. If we could propose an ordinance like that, that would go a long way toward getting the biggest value stuff out of the C&D stream. And it wouldn't be something where we have to worry about a C&D sorting facility, which is just beyond our means and beyond the hauler's means at this point in time.
So Lisa, would it make sense to maybe put that as a topic item or a quick update item under the commercial building codes, or in conjunction with, or maybe?
Well, it would also, I mean, we have a green building code for residential. It's not in there, it would have to be amended to be in there.
And I'd love to see it in for residential. I don't know who or how we'd enforce that. I guess we'd have to have it so that the hauler knows that if he delivers a C&D thing into the driveway, he has to give another thing that's for recyclables. Is that what it is?
Well, if it's part of the building code, is it addressed in the permit?
Permit, I don't know, maybe that would be a place to put, I don't know what's the best place to put it.
I plan to never do anything to my house, so I'll never know.
We do have some regulations on the haulers.
Yeah.
It could be not that the haulers want more
But
regulations, God knows. It wouldn't be bad to have it in 2 places.
I just
So the hauler
caution
and the
that
resident
I'm not
knows.
sure there's an appetite for buttressing the green building code,
For doing what with them?
doing much to the green building code. But that's just,
Well,
we tried to not make ourselves, in the past, we tried to not make ourselves non-competitive with neighboring communities.
and we succeeded in that, I promise you.
That's a good one.
And that's not a plus, but anyway.
Now, we adopted the green building code, that was kind of
Yes.
it was more like Boulder's than the county, which I think the county was the toughest.
I think so.
And so,
The county just updated theirs. I'm not sure I didn't notice which elements were updated.
Well, the
But I think-
C&D recycling stuff from the county is awesome, and so we could just push that. I could bring copies of that.
So, working from the top, that first one, I would say, and I'm not trying to be arrogant, but I just have spent the last couple of months researching C&D strategies, organic strategies and whatever for the state. So the options that are potentially available in this region are thin, to say the least, on
Okay.
C&D. I would say that the only practical one from the standpoint of a town like ours is the one I just mentioned, which
So
would
we
be.
can report that and see. if there's
And we
any-
could, I'm saying we could put a bullet there that suggests that our recommendation is, we've done a bit of research, and our recommendation is that if C&D happens, if a hauler delivers a dumpster, he has to deliver a recycling one at the same time. And then it has to collect at least X, Y, and Z materials. What was the second item on the agenda?
I'm sorry, Lisa, let me try and say this. I'll make a couple of notes on here.
Can I ask a question? Lisa, does that entail 2 containers?
It does.
That would fill up a driveway.
That's the point.
And what is the definition of what would go in the?
What I said was cardboard, metals.
Okay.
Lumber is a toughie because there's painted lumber and not painted lumber and stuff like that. I think
There
I'd
has
keep
to
it
be
simple to
unpainted,
start with.
untreated, yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd keep it simple. So I think those 2 are the highest value, and I would start there.
So I'm just going to make a couple of notes on the screen if the keyboard will work.
But, the Boulder County recycling, or building codes do require some of it, so maybe
Yeah.
we could tie in with that.
Well, there was, Boulder County's tough, they've got a tough green building code.
Okay.
I would say container. I wouldn't say roll-off. Roll-off implies huge.
Right, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I don't want it to say roll-off. I'd say container.
Okay, well, I'm just going to make a
A
couple of
container
notes here.
is
If
a-
somebody
a
wants to
container
take
is a
a
perfectly
crack at
acceptable word in the
updating
field.
this in some more detail, by all means, please do. I'm sorry, the keyboard isn't going to.
Container doesn't want to work for you.
I think just pretty much any of these keys aren't going to work for me. I'll tell you what, maybe I'll just write it down. So for the purposes of the meeting.
That's enough. I'm happy to enhance it if you send the notes around, but if you
Sure.
just take. Research organics composting program options for residential and commercial areas of Superior. So we did that contract, or the RFP, and requested bids for organics, right? And it came, this one's from Martin. When they sent out the RFP, did they send out a request for an optional organics program this last round?
Correct.
And how much was it?
It was more, or I guess tell me what your question is, or I can bring up the detailed bid tab?
Yeah, I'm just wondering how much extra they were gonna charge for the composting part of the program.
I can't remember. I recall, if I recall correctly, it was very similar to Lafayette's charges.
Is it very recent that this, it's the very recent RFP, not the one that was a couple years ago?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. I didn't see that, I didn't look at the answers, so I pardon my ignorance.
It's April through October, you're talking about residential.
Yeah.
It's April through October, it's 100 and.
Oh, you mean the subscription
That's the
service?
optional.
Yeah, the subscription service that's available through the Waste Connections contract. But I thought, Lisa, I misunderstood. I thought you were asking if it was possible to include that as a service for everybody.
That's what I was
And then
asking, if
everybody's
that was
required
what
to
got
pay.
bid, yes.
I don't think we said, we didn't do that.
I'm sure you didn't select it, but I'm just asking
No,
whether or
I'm
not
pretty sure
it
you
got
did
asked.
do it. It was on there. It was
We
on the
may have done
RFP
it,
for
but I
sure.
don't think we awarded that.
No, I
No, you
understand that.
didn't.
That wasn't he's answering the question, which is, did it get bid? That's all I was asking.
So there was a curbside bulk item, or I'm sorry, the biweekly yard waste was included as as a potential add-on. It was an add-all item, Joe. It wasn't included in ultimately what the board chose to include in the
Not
bid.
asking for the decision, I just want to know the dollars they bid.
It's right there.
I can't see which column you're talking about. So that's
Column
why.
3.
So right here where it says biweekly yard waste on organic service subscription, so $6 a month would have been the incremental increase for
And is that
Albright.
$6 a month, assuming that recycling stays weekly, or that recycling goes to every other week?
It is,
I thought the recycling stayed every week, but there was
So
also
Albright had a more
bi-weekly.
unique
Yeah,
proposal.
they did
So if
weekly
you see
and
my footnote
bi-weekly.
here, Albright proposed weekly service, and then they would also collect a 45-gallon container and then unlimited additional recycling. And then they incentivized smaller container sizes
Well,
at $9.50.
If that,
But it
if
was
that
incremental.
$6 a month was keeping recycling every week, that was a hell of a deal.
Mhm.
I know, it was,
It wasn't.
Sorry.
That wasn't, it wasn't the right bidder.
Albright was a small firm from
Got it.
South Denver that had an innovative proposal,
Yeah.
but you're correct, Lisa, it did note the incremental increase of $6 a month with the
They
every week
bid
recycling.
$9 a month. Who's $9 a month? Is that the Western one?
Is Waste
Waste
Connections.
Connections.
And then Republic and Western chose not to submit
Okay.
that.
And did any of them, did you ask them for weekly, there we go, weekly trash versus bi-weekly recyclables? Versus weekly trash and weekly recyclables? Well, that's a fascinating story, that bi-weekly recyclables is more expensive. What kind of logic is that?
well, just on the one, I know.
Okay. I'm just asking
Well, I know.
what kind of thinking that is.
The rationale from the gentleman
I'm
who owned.
sorry.
The rationale from the gentleman who owns the company felt that it was a smaller volume on a more frequent basis that was easier to pick up on a weekly basis. It
Makes
was a
sense.
way of incentivizing smaller amounts and just doing it more frequently, is how I understood
Okay.
it.
Can you hold there for 1 second? I'm just
Sure.
got all of them down. Okay.
So Michelle, you said you had to leave at 6:15, so I wanted to
Yeah,
make
I
sure
mean,
that we
Yep,
I
honored
can
your
flex
time.
that a little bit, but yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
sure.
Okay. So, I think, when did these bids go out, or when did this get done?
The bids were due October.
Yeah, they were due
October
in October.
22nd, and the board chose a successful bidder, and we entered into a contract on December 4th, if I remember
Okay.
correctly.
So, our first quarter, it says research composting collection options, or research organics composting program options.
The only thing we don't know about is commercial areas.
Yeah. And then-
And I'm gonna tell you, the only businesses for which it makes sense to compost is, of course, any restaurant. The number of restaurants we have is that many? 7? Or what do you think? It can't be a lot more than that.
No.
Oh, grocery stores, sorry. We have a couple of grocery stores.
I can tell you Starbucks doesn't do it.
They don't even
And they
recycle.
backslid,
That's
actually.
crazy.
So, yeah,
They're
yeah.
horrible.
So I'll think about commercial.
Although they'll give you the grounds for your garden if you want.
Yeah.
Really? Oh,
Yes,
cool.
they will.
Huh.
Is there something that you wanted to discuss in particular before you leave?
No, I think we're kind of
Is
just
this-
cruising through a few things. I just want to make sure I get to there.
Get to what?
Just kind of get everything highlighted in general, which
Okay.
I think we're pretty much almost there.
Okay.
So I guess, Lisa, before you move on, there were a couple of notes that when I was thinking about the agenda, might make sense to include when you do meet with the board on the 23rd. I wanted to just mention the cooperative process that this committee participated in with the board in going through the waste contract process. I thought it was a great process last year. And then another success area was working with Jim and the HOA board on the Windy Collection Day information. It was a great effort that I thought might make sense to acknowledge or at least touch on with the board. And then also the continuation of the dog park compost program. And then the Zurich workshop that Jim touched on earlier. There were a couple of maybe the highlight items that I'd want to touch on, or would suggest maybe we include in the list of things to definitely touch on, in addition to maybe Lisa working on a quick assessment of the work plan items. Those
Yeah,
were just
happily
my ideas.
put notes together and circulate them for,
Mhm.
yeah.
Maybe we can do
Brief.
that, like, with each other via email or something like that in
Just
between.
circulate them.
So I'll maybe add those at the bottom of this, Lisa, and if the group's interested or is okay with this, maybe I'll just forward this to Lisa, and maybe, Lisa, you take a first crack at it?
Well, but I wasn't trying to do it independent, I was trying to do it after walking through them.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was trying to, so I get people's input, so the third one is, that I think is the one that we're trying to work on. Both
That's what we wanna work on.
Updating the codes and how do we figure out how to make sure they're really paying attention to the ones. And we had the speech from, I don't know the man's name, I've completely
Ernie.
forgotten that's it, Ernie.
Ernie.
And how did we feel about that? Did we feel like he was pretty serious about what he's
Yeah,
enforcing?
I think he is.
Marginally.
That's kind of, I wasn't like overwhelmed myself, but, okay.
I mean, knowing what didn't get to code when
Yeah.
our houses were built and he was the building inspector was issues.
Okay. So maybe we'll put a little asterisk next to that one and saying that one in compliance and kind of updating the code
Mhm.
is sort of what we've been working on a fair bit.
I mean, I think in the general sense, like, if you're remodeling a big portion of your house, there's some very straightforward things for the residential, but yeah, it's not completely intact. And obviously with the commercial, it's not at all intact.
For the next one, you're saying you've got the data, it's around the mid-20s, no great progress from the past, but if you have that data and can send it.
That is
that'd
just
be great.
ridiculous. I just don't know how.
There's no reason for there to be any progress. Zero reason for there to be progress because there hasn't been any more education. There definitely isn't any incentive, pay-as-you-throw, et cetera. I mean, there's no reason for there to be any progress whatsoever.
It just shocks me that.
Those who want to
that's
recycle are recycling,
little.
those who don't want to recycle aren't recycling, and nobody's, got a reason to change.
Mhm.
There hasn't been a change, so,
Well, there are also a lot of changes in the makeup of the trash too, though. So a lot of heavier stuff is disappearing. Print media and so forth.
the what media?
Print media.
Oh, print
So, I
media,
mean,
yeah.
there's a lot of change in the mix. So it's
Yes,
harder
there
and
is.
harder to-
Yes, there is.
Particularly when you're only looking at weight.
So that was 4. 5 is how are we doing on the water audits? Have you advertised them at all?
We do?
They haven't.
Are they almost gone or something?
Told us
No.
money.
Oh.
No, they just got started. It's irrigation season now, so we partner again with CRC to do the water audit program, both indoor in the winter and outdoor in the spring and summer, and we're participating and promoting those now.
So maybe we can have some counts or something for the memo?
I'll do my best to get to it. I
If you
can't make
can.
any promises.
That'd be great, okay. Review programs that can encourage residents to implement.
So that would be the Xeriscape workshop.
Oh, great, perfect, thank you. I couldn't read it. That's
Well, I can't completely read it.
kind of, I'm at this weird angle, so I can't really make it out. It's like reading.
Yeah, so we did that with the Xeriscape thing, and then Jim rounded it out with this review for the HOA.
Great. Promote Boulder County Energy Smart Program, energy audits. How are we at energy audits?
I think we're great. We, again, partnering with the folks who do that. We do our traditional advertising cycle.
I just meant the count.
I don't have that level of detail involved.
Is
with
that something
Lisa.
that the county has? I guess the county maintains, not us?
No, we get reports.
Do we? Okay.
But I don't go through them in minutia.
Yeah, maybe you can pull the last one and we'll go as
Sure.
of the last report. You know,
Yeah.
It's not like we have to have today's data.
I think that's fair. And then the garden in a box, obviously,
Right, thanks.
everybody's reaching out on that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We're into the second quarter though, so can you just scroll down?
Sure.
Okay. Pace, that's why you asked me about pace. So the pace thing, I don't know much past what I saw for the recognition and the stuff at that open house.
It really needs to be an outreach effort to go to educate the businesses, because it is a free technical advising resource where they can get a baseline, each business, they don't have to do anything, but they can get a baseline report on energy, water, transportation, waste, for their business, and they can start with that. So I think that is a first step for education, number one.
Yeah.
And then number two, establishing a baseline that they can improve from. What we need to do is we need to get out on the floor and solicit with the companies. And I haven't had any time to do it. So that's, I think, where we are.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay.
Yeah, so aren't they
That can be
approaching
a-
the companies?
What?
I thought they
Yeah,
were,
they
they
are.
had hired
I mean, I know they
somebody with
approached Keith,
Superior.
like, as part of that.
Yeah, they do a person.
There's a PACE advisor, Matt Hannon, who has reached out to the majority of businesses in town already. to at
Have
least
they-
establish the
Have they gone
relationship.
through have they generated reports? Do we
I don't know that anybody's chosen to participate yet.
You know,
A Superior
why don't we
Liquor
commit
did,
to, why don't we
Oh,
commit to
recently?
trying
Oh,
to
not
work with the
recently.
chamber?
Yeah, so there's been some
To give a
past
little speech
participants.
before the chamber about it, or at
I-
one of the little
Cool.
networking things in the evening.
Well, I think if we could prepare something for the chamber, that they would be willing to send it out. I mean, I know they're pretty stretched resource-wise, but
The chamber
Well, I
had
think
a meeting.
Leah Yancey.
They had
The
a-
open house, yes,
They
I was
had
there.
an open house with Pace.
Yes.
But it
They
didn't
did
say,
an after
here,
hours
you
with
know,
all
Yeah, three.
sign up
afterwards.
now, or whatever, and so maybe we can try to make that connection again. And sometimes you don't, the first time isn't enough, you need to hear it a second time or a third time before it really registers, so.
And maybe at the events that are coming up, particularly July 4th, on a table somewhere, we can have information about the PACE brochures and then the sign-up sheet at those events.
that's a great idea.
Maybe.
We'll reflect that in here then, okay. And the business recognition program, that was the part that was new to me at the open house. We have done PACE, our committee did PACE audits in the past. So I was familiar with how they work, but the business recognition thing is a little bit different and
So I don't think we
newer
can
thing.
work with that until
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
companies jump on board.
That's exactly what it was, because she was just suggesting as part of a leverage, once we get rolling, to
And
do
then
that.
then we can go in there and really applaud the businesses that get their report and then do steps to improve.
Lisa, you may have missed that, but the county's added when Leah was here making one of her presentations, the county had added a kind of a marketing package. And one of the tools was that they heard feedback from their participants that local recognition was more significant, or perhaps more significant than county recognition. So a way to localize that recognition was something that they were promoting as a marketing effort.
Yeah,
So
and
the
they had, like,
jurisdictions
a-
like Lafayette and us had committed to recognizing the businesses who participated, giving them some specific local recognition rather than
Yeah.
regional or countywide.
It's pretty cool.
Okay. On the next one, I think that would be really valuable to put a little info together about LEDs versus fluorescents, frankly. And I think people have been a little bit, I remember when we did our first CFL giveaway, I don't know how many people walked up to me and said, "What's a CFL?" They had no idea. And this was, they've been around for a long time, so people are pretty clueless, and Excel offers, discounts, and lots of people offer discounts. So I think if we just had a little blurb about CFLs, their lifetime, their disposal issues, and LEDs and their lifetimes and savings and whatnot, we might be able to get, it could be a newsletter thing pretty easily.
So it was a newsletter item
Okay.
2 months ago, and we'll keep running it over the course of the year.
What did it say?
It was a great handout that was put together by another organization that gave us some good tips. And I don't remember them off the top of my head if you'd like to go through them, but I didn't.
Okay.
I'm not sure it makes sense for the time that you have now.
Do we, and what do we have a budget for light bulb giveaways this year? And I think, don't we usually have like $1,000 or something for that?
There wasn't something that was.
Not in this year's budget?
Not in this
Okay,
year.
that's
So
fine.
there was, I think the CFL exchange that you're thinking of in years past, and then also the Christmas lights trade-in program. There isn't a larger organization. That's not one of the incentives that some of the countywide groups have used anymore. So we've segued away from those. We don't have those anymore.
Fine. So I guess we can say there was a newsletter article.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll continue to run that.
Outdoor residential water audits. Didn't we already talk about that one?
Mm-hmm.
Indoor,
Oh,
outdoor.
the other was, aren't they the same time? They're different?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because.
You can't do outdoor in the winter.
There's no first quarter outdoor
Okay.
watering.
So it's usually, from kind of Halloween to Mother's Day, you don't irrigate.
So they're,
Actually, maybe Memorial Day this year.
right. So if they gave us a count, they'll give us a count of this also?
Mhm.
Okay. Do we have some tons and stuff like that for or number of poles or something for the yard waste facility year to date?
I think the invoices are tracked, and I can try and get that.
So I do not want to interrupt, but I do need to blow out of here. So we're not at quorum again, right?
Correct.
We don't even have the ability to reach quorum, though, as far as I
I don't
know.
think
If
so.
everybody shows up, you're down 3, so you can have quorum, you just don't have it.
Who is missing, Tanya and Joe?
Tanya and Joe, yeah, so then
Why
you
is
would be
Joe
at
not here?
5 or 6.
I'm gonna have to go drive by
6
his
out of
house
9.
and throw
That's
eggs.
all I know.
Well, I know he's at home, so I'm trying to figure out
Well,
why he's
maybe
not
we'll
here.
remedy that on the 23rd.
Yeah, if there's anybody else, is anybody else aware of anybody that might be potentially interested in serving? It'd be great to get them interviewed that night with the others.
Which night?
We
May
have
23rd.
an interview on the 23rd for one person.
Yeah. I will not be able to be here next month. I will be out in the country. So, but I'll be available by email, but it'd be great. I don't know who is able to go to the 4th of July event, but I won't be back for that either.
I'll be out of the state
Mm.
by then.
So, but I'd be happy to help with materials and getting that together, so
Are you on the
don't count
water
me out.
for the 4th of July?
So I'll get info from him and I'll take a stab at a very brief addressing of each of these items. Some will say, not yet tackled or whatever,
Mhm.
for the first 2 quarters and circulate it around and y'all can edit.
Sounds awesome.
That sounds good.
Hey, how about Google Doc it?
Pardon me?
How about a Google Doc? No?
I don't know how to do it. I don't.
Okay,
I can't
send it
even-
to me.
No, I can't. I don't. Sending it, mark it up and send it back.
Yeah, but send it up
I don't want to do
me
a Google Doc.
Oh, but it's so much
I
easier.
I have a
So much
staffer, he
easier.
keeps doing things
So,
Google Doc.
Michelle,
I have to
before
do
you
14
leave-
steps to print the damn thing out. Sorry, I'm not
Before
doing
you
it.
leave, or did you say that you wouldn't be able to?
One time I did, it said, are you a
We
Google
said
Docs
next month.
member? And
Did
it
you mean
wouldn't let
next
me out of
meeting?
that
I can come to the
loop.
23rd,
Can't come to
but
the
I will
23rd.
be gone June 9th, and I will not be getting back until, I'm not even sure I'll make the July one. No, wait, no, July is not to the 14th, right? I'll be back for that.
Yes.
What's the date of the June one? Sorry, I'm not.
June,
Second Thursday.
Yeah.
June 9th.
Okay, that should be fine for me.
Yeah, June 9th and then July 7th, or July 14th.
Yeah, we moved the July one, because, well, no, actually, we didn't, because.
June
The
9th?
second Thursday. June 9th and July 14th are the
Okay.
next two.
Cool.
Okay, so you guys on
I
23rd.
will also be out of the
That's
country
good.
on June 9th. Can we think about a different date if you're missing and I'm missing and maybe, is anyone else missing that day?
I leave that day, so it's like. even
I
if it was
leave the week
then
before.
it'd be good.
Okay.
I leave the
Yeah,
week
if there's
after.
a date that makes sense.
Jeez,
maybe
okay.
The week
The
after,
three of
the
us.
week before.
I'm gone for 4 weeks, so if it was the week before. I
I'm
could
gone
do
for
it,
a
but-
week and a half. Yeah, what?
So June 2nd?
Yeah, I could. do
Yes, I
that.
could make June 2nd.
I don't know
It's
about
pretty
anybody
close
else.
to our council meeting, but that's okay.
Hmm?
Can anybody
So
else
I'll-
do June 2nd?
Yeah.
I can make it
I was
work.
just saying, he was nodding, I was nodding.
Mhm.
I'd be down for that if everybody else was.
How are you looking for June 2nd?
I like that.
Okay. Cool.
Sweet.
Sweet.
Thanks for
Okay.
letting us know.
Fingers crossed for quorum eventually,
Fingers
one of these days.
crossed. Okay, brainstorming. Somebody
Thanks,
else to
everybody.
join.
Cool, thanks.
Thanks.
So the topics we're going to talk about, we're going to mention a bunch of successes. We're going to talk in more depth about potentially, I'd say, C&D energy codes and building
Larger
codes.
commercial building codes.
The whole, yeah,
Mhm.
and yes,
Mhm.
I think that would be a key one. And what was the other key one? Was it organics or, is there any other key one? I'm looking at one being part of that larger discussion. So organics, I mean,
A little larger.
so maybe that's a big enough discussion, I don't know.
I think it will be.
That's a big discussion.
Mhm.
Okay, it's pretty encompassing,
Some-
and it
Which
will,
one?
Some of
it'll
these
make a
things
few people
may-
nervous, so it'll, yeah.
Some of these things may expand on their own.
All right, Lisa, so you were most of the way through the second quarter. Were there any other big picture? Well, I guess,
Yeah, there was nothing to say on those dates that we have them, and develop budget recommendations, that's not now either, there's nothing to do that, yeah. In
Well-
fact, June is too early, but anyway.
Well, no, actually, we're in the middle of budget season right now. From a
You
staff
aren't.
perspective, this is when
Yeah.
this is
All
when
right.
we're right now. I'm actually, as usual, in May behind in our budget.
Well,
so.
then I guess the only thing we can do is maybe you can circulate last year's budget or this year's budget, and we can
Well, these are
commit to
the.
discussing it at the June 2nd meeting.
That's usually what we've done. So over the last couple of years, it's worked to talk about it in May and then try to get quorum in June or July and then have some formal recommendations.
Did-
And that worked.
Do you have some feedback on the feasibility of extending the opening dates on the yard facility?
We have a
based
grant
upon-
to do it, don't we?
That did happen.
I know it did, but
Yeah.
I'm thinking for 2017.
Oh, I think it'll be planned to happen. So the 5 recommendations from the committee for last year were to continue the dog waste compost program, switching out the waste-only receptacles at all town park facilities for 2 holes, or the recycling and also the trash or landfilled, to be landfilled. Then $1,000 for education and outreach materials, the giveaway item, and then the recommendation to bring back the bulk item waste pickup event, and then allocating $5,000 for a consultant staff member to coordinate and promote conservation-related programs. So those were the items that this group recommended last July. And some of them come back. You know, they kind of stayed as hang-around items or holdover items from the 2016 budget to the 2017 budget. So it might make sense to maybe chat about any of these items as potential new or adds. And then third quarter and fourth quarter are a little more brief. Not necessarily, I think, Lisa, like you described, and when we worked on the work plan, it's not necessarily that things can't happen in third and fourth quarter, but I think your intent was to start and work through the year.
Exactly.
That's why the third and fourth quarter are numerically not as large.
So I think one of the other big picture items that we might want to talk about, I think Michelle was saying, and I forgot it, is the stagnant recycling and no goal. Didn't she want to talk about goals? So I think that's the other thing besides the commercial building codes stuff. Yeah.
Well, if the statewide goals give us some fodder to work with,
Exactly.
that's a good way to go.
Sorry, I just didn't want to lose that one.
Anything else, Lisa, that you wanted to maybe touch on, or big picture items to highlight? So I think what I heard was maybe you'll start with a quick update on this, and then send it to the group, and then the group sends it back to you, a marked up version.
And then I don't think we necessarily even have to discuss it. We just hand it out, and people can look at it at their leisure.
Sure, or I can just put it on the screen.
I
Or both.
thought, oh, so it's not a dinner thingy?
It is a dinner thing.
So why, yeah, this is a kind of a, what do I want to say, not friendly, you know what I mean? It's, yeah.
Sure. Okay, so the plan, it'll be, we'll meet at 6 in this room. We'll have dinner, and then the summary sheet that Lisa will work on. Anything else group wants to have for that night?
I think we'll try to have some of the major talking bullets related to the building code stuff. Just what are the topics?
Oh, and you mentioned the building codes, Essie. I saw you nodding your head. You had forwarded something to me earlier that you wanted to bring up with the group.
Yeah, so this is a new.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I thought he was looking at me. I was like, I didn't get it. Okay.
No, he was waiting for me to bring this up.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a new metric that the DOE's put together to basically assess the kind of building shell efficiency, whereas the existing Energy Star ranking looks more at energy usage intensity, so looking at overall energy usage as it currently is performing compared to the total square footage, and then comparing that against benchmarks. And so this is a kind of new way to look at basically how is the building fundamentally built, and to try and leverage that as an asset for building owners down the roads, because occupancy can change. And so if you're just looking at the current efficiency metrics, it can be a little bit not as useful in certain circumstances. And so I'm not sure if there's an opportunity for us to leverage this as well in our commercial codes, but I have a couple of slides that I threw together from one of my coworkers.
So you want me to just maybe flip through the slides?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. You can see kind of how it works.
So this is a typical kind of, this is the metric itself from 1 to 10.
Exactly, yeah, it's a 10-point scale with 5 being kind of middle-of-the-road efficiency building. And this is more of a modeling-based metric rather than an actual performance metric. So if you go to the next slide, you can see this is the current standard that it sounds like we're leveraging for commercial buildings at the moment, which is using the Energy Star score, which is based on portfolio manager and those types of metrics. And so basically, again, you're looking at total kilowatt hours or therms for gas divided by the total square footage, and then comparing that against other benchmarks for those types of facilities. And then if you get 50, that's about average for building. If you get higher than 50, then it's a high-performing building. And so I remember from our previous meeting, there were discussions about how our code is, looking at demanding a certain or specifying a certain Energy Star score. to ensure that it's an efficient building, basically.
For the res sector? It's a
For-
it's a her rating for the.
Yeah, it's hers for residential. This is just the commercial
Okay.
side.
I don't know I don't
believe.
remember what he said for commercial. I don't remember what he said.
It was kind of, we went over it really quickly, so I saw a couple of things in there about using portfolio manager benchmarking for
Thank you,
commercial.
sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
I just didn't remember, so thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, so I can't remember exactly beyond that, but I do remember it came up. So if you go to the next slide. So this is asset score, which is taking a different approach. And so it's looking at the physical and kind of structural components of the building using modeling and simulation that the DOE's developed in partnership with, I think, some of the national labs. And then again, you're rating the building on a scale of 1 to 10 based on, envelope components like the roof and walls, and then kind of the major systems that are unlikely to change even if you have a change in tenants for the building. So if you go to the next slide. So this is a really interesting way that you can leverage both the portfolio manager score along with the DOE's new asset score to really learn about buildings. And basically what these two allow you to do is figure out if you have an efficient building that's being used poorly versus kind of the opposite approach where you have really inefficient building but the tenants or the occupants are working really hard to try and be as energy efficient as possible. And so that's why it can be really useful to have both of those because you can really compare. And then if you have something like PACE, you can look at the reporting data and go, okay, well, this building is really likely to be benefited by, doing an energy audit and doing some retro commissioning or things like that. Whereas this type of building is a little bit better suited to kind of like outreach and more behavioral type approaches. And then the next two slides just go over that. So, you can have derive benefits for many different kind of end users, but that's basically the gist of it. So it's yet another metric, but it can be potentially really useful when combined with the existing ones that we're already leveraging for commercial buildings.
Who would rate the asset score?
I believe DOE is currently doing all the work around that. It's something I'd have to look into a little bit more, but I think they're the ones doing
Because
most
the
of the work.
portfolio manager is how I understand it, is you kind of
Mhm.
input data, right, and it generates a score? Is that kind of?
Yeah, and I think asset score, I haven't played around with it too much again, but I think it's kind of similar in where you can go in and kind of enter in different pieces of information about like, amount of insulation for the walls,
Okay.
what types of, U values you have for windows and things like that,
Okay.
and then kind of figure it out that way.
Okay.
So I believe that's the approach they're using. So it's sort of similar, but again, a little bit different.
Okay.
So is it modeling based on purely those reported things, or is it also input things like blower door tests and stuff, so you get some idea of the real performance of the building? You can have insulation but have huge gaps, and then what do you know?
I'm not 100% sure, so I don't want to say it totally with certainty. I believe it asks you to do things like blower doors and then input that data as part of the inputs to the modeling. So the idea is to really get, not just kind of self-reported data that could be really hit or miss, but actually try to get at some, measured data as much as possible and then model based off of that, is my understanding.
I hope so. I hope
yeah.
so. Otherwise, I'd rather go with a bill.
Yeah, exactly.
Martin, I have a question for you. Who generated and developed the green building plan for the residential area?
This committee, I think, worked closely with our building official to prove that, I think it was shortly after the city of Boulder finished theirs and adapted, I think would be the best word, not necessarily copied, but took large segments of it and themes from it
Nearly
and applied it to
copied,
us.
yeah.
Okay, or copied.
Because they'd done a ton of research, and they
Right.
could afford the research, and then there were a few things where the committee didn't want to go quite as far, or the board didn't want to go quite as far, so a few things got backed off a little bit, but not much.
So it was a
Because
pure
really-
policy recommendation
That's
that
why we're talking the
came
same
out of
for
this
commercial.
group's
Yeah,
work,
right.
and then the board picked the things that made sense
That's why we're bringing them
to
in.
actually include in the code.
Okay. So, I mean, essentially that is kind of our goal, right, is to take that and have that code for
Commercial as
the
well.
commercial
Yeah.
space.
That would be the policy recommendation from this group to the board to consider.
Yes.
Mhm.
I
Or
think it
some
also
version of
went
that.
through planning commission before.
It did.
Makes sense.
Yeah, anything that affects or changes or has an impact on the town's Chapter 16 Land Use Code goes to the Planning Commission first. So there were some changes and questions based on the dialogue with that group, and then, like Joe mentioned, I think believe was on the planning
recall
commission at the time.
We did a lot of comparison between Boulder County and Boulder City, as I said earlier, and found the Boulder City to be much more practical to use.
What was that time frame from like kind of the start?
It's half a year, I think.
Yeah, it took
And after the initial
several months of work, and then
there was
it's
a lot of
public
work.
hearings to change
There was
the
a lot of work
ordinance.
before I was even aware it was being done, you know. It was brought to us as a planning commission and then a board after a lot of work, and then there was a lot of work.
I think the committee had to have worked on, I remember seeing it on the agenda for this group for at least 6 months, maybe
I'd say
longer.
it's at least a year effort.
It was a long time, yeah.
I'm sure.
Are you just asking about maybe kind of a rough timeframe for expectations of what something like this might
Well,
take?
After
if
it
it's
already
gonna
been adopted
take
in
that
Boulder,
long,
yeah.
you know, I mean, you are kind of going up on a time frame with all the new commercial development going on, so just to kind of.
Well, we have a building code that's, what's the latest building code that we've
IECC
adopted?
12, I think we're at.
Yeah, I
Denver
believe so.
just went to 2015.
Yeah.
Really?
We'll be scheduled to consider the 2015 code. The building code and the electric code are offset. They stagger by a year or two. And so we're scheduled to consider the 2015 building code this fall.
Okay.
And in that, it adopts by reference the energy efficiency code that Ernie and this group talked about 2 months ago.
Right, okay.
And I think for this metric in particular, you know, certainly it's valuable for new buildings, but it's also a lot of the value stems from kind of current buildings that are doing retrofits and stuff like that. So I don't think there's necessarily a huge push to get something like this adopted before the town center really starts being built. But as a kind of longer term thing, you know, it's a brand new thing. There are a whole lot of areas that have adopted it yet, but it's got a lot of benefits. I think it could be really cool to kind of have us drive some leadership around that if that's an opportunity.
That'd be great.
So.
And that is a good reminder about, they are new buildings, yes.
Yeah.
So, so the windows aren't going to be as sucky as the, ones that.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah, ideally.
Not that I want to back off, but I just, I was kind of in a panic also. So,
Yeah.
But we also have to worry about things like space for recycling and all those things that go in
Yeah.
now and matter for as long as the
We've
building's
tried
there.
to-
Exactly, and
we've tried
since-
to build that into the town center.
It's not tried,
requirements.
Joe. It's a requirement. Like I mentioned, I was in a
Yeah.
3-hour meeting before
Space
this.
for recycling and
that's
space
what-
for organics?
Not for
No,
organics. The
not
parity,
just-
the parity that's captured in the ordinance is for both landfill and for
Well,
recyclables.
It's probably time to,
That would be another
Add
policy
that.
recommendation.
Mhm.
Anything else on that, Azzy?
Nope, that's all.
that was nice.
Thanks.
Thanks
So
for that.
I'll
No
forward
problem.
this to the group. SC sent me this morning and asked if we could have
Mhm.
this up for this discussion. So I'll forward this with the meeting notes or it's the update. It's not a meeting, the update notes. On the agenda, we also had the recommendations for the 2017 budget, touched on that. Again, it was just, it's a placeholder. The town board is going to begin finance committee dialogue and looking at the individual budget pieces and going through each fund over the course of the summer. So it's incumbent on each of the committees to begin thinking about things that they'd like to recommend. So I mention it this month and hopefully have quorum next month and then begin to consider individual items to potentially recommend to the board to consider.
I'm going to guess that one's going to take an e-vote because we haven't seen a quorum yet, right? Not this entire year, so,
No,
No, you're right. We haven't had quorum this year.
not once. We
Haven't
tried
had
to do
a-
the leadership election every time.
haven't been able to do a leadership election.
And that would be the last item, and then adjourn. So, any other items the group would like to bring up or have as placeholders? I'll put in my notes to bring up next month. I'll send a reminder with the meeting notes or this update note, including as these files about the dinner for 6 o'clock in this room a week from Monday, and then the changed meeting date,
Yeah, that's
June
good.
2nd.
People need to know that.
I think that's about it. Am I missing anything?
Apologies for being late. My Outlook thing came in half an hour early instead of 15 minutes early, and so by that time I had time to get involved in something and like totally blow it and forget,
So, for dinner, if you have a vegetarian need, communicate it.
We will have a vegetarian item, and then we will also, actually, we'll have fajitas, so it's got kind of a built-in, and then also gluten-free. But I think Kimberly's vegetarian.
I am, yeah. but-
Lisa?
Lisa, are you sticking with the vegetarian? All right, so maybe my
Since
meat fajitas won't
1975,
be
so
as
yeah.
popular as I think they will be.
For most of these people were born.
I'm okay if you have chicken.
Okay with chicken, all right. So chicken fajitas it is, and then a separate vegetarian
I'll eat
dish.
everything, so.
I didn't have anything else. Anything else? No? All right, thanks so much, everybody, for making the
Apologies
time.
Thanks
for
much.
being late, sorry.
Yeah, same here as well. Wish I was just a little bit before you did, so.
Lisa, did you say you're going